Hello and welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Matt Muratore. 2020 is a big year for the town of Plymouth and the surrounding communities with the 400th commemoration upon us. One person who has been involved with the planning since the inception and who has been instrumental from the state level is our guest today, our friend and former state senator, Vinny deMacedo. Welcome.
Matt, thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So tell us, how's life going? How's the family? And you got a couple of grandchildren now?
Yeah, things are good.
Yeah?
Things are really good. I've been blessed. It's a great new job. I'm sure we've all heard of Bridgewater State University, and we know the impact it has in the region. The one thing I learned as being there, though, is I was really impressed with how much an impact. Everywhere I go, that you run into people. Oh, I went there. My daughter went there. My brother went there. It's a pretty big institution right in our backyard, and it's nice to be a part of the team there. And the nice thing is I get to interact and do stuff like this on a regular basis as well. So, stepping out of politics is challenging. You've done it for, and as you know, I did it for 21 years, and I love the community. I love the opportunities, and so stepping away was difficult. But being able to do it in a way that I'm still involved and still part of the process. I still have a couple of projects specifically that I'm working at Bridgewater State University. In regards to 2020, it's the Mayflower Chronicles. I'm sorry, the Massachusetts Chronicles that I'm sure you're aware of, and of course the big in October, the big Indigenous convention. Conference that we're having that Bridgewater State is taking the lead on and working on. So it's I'm still very much involved, and that's kind of fun for me.
So what's your title there?
My title is Director of Regional Partnerships.
Okay, so what does that mean? What is it? What's your goal?
So first and foremost, I think that they had this position open for about a year and a half. The previous person became sick and wasn't able to do the job, and so there was an interim period of time. But the goal is to build relationships with the business community, with municipalities, with hospitals, and with K through 12 principals and the like. And of course, as you know, in Plymouth County, that's something that we had to work on. You do it yourself. We're always at the chambers. We're always dealing with the municipalities, and we're dealing with the hospitals on a regular basis, as you know. So this was kind of like, wow, you got to be kidding me! It's such a perfect fit for what I was able to do for 20 some odd years, now focusing and doing it specifically for Bridgewater. Letting people know, again, as I shared, how important having an institution of higher ed is to this region. 95% of the students that go to Bridgewater State University are from Massachusetts. Wow. So when they graduate, they stay in Massachusetts. Now, of course, we have a lot of higher ed institutions in Massachusetts. Frankly, that's what we're known for. But a lot of those students, they fly in, they get their great education, and then they leave and they go back to all their other states. But here, the people at Bridgewater State University get to stay here. And that's a good thing because it's a huge economic driver for us, huge workforce development for us as well.
Yeah, that's terrific. So what made you decide after 21 years? What was it that said, you know what, I really need to start looking around?
Or did
it just come to you?
I had done it for a long period of time.
Your kids were young when you started.
Yeah,
they're all adults now.
My son was just born. Yeah. He's now graduating from college. My daughters were 2 and 4. They're both married now. One is the oldest, has two children. The second one is having her first child. So
they've only known you in this life.
Yeah, it is. But it's always good. My thought was, I've had a very fortunate run. It's been great. I had a lot of things, and I always thought it would be smart to go out when things were going well, as opposed to, oh my gosh, it's time for the voters to get somebody new. And so that was kind of nice for me to make that decision, and frankly find something that really fit my skill set. It's not everybody that needs those skills that I think I've amassed over the years in building, and so to find a place that needed what I think I had to offer was great, and not having to totally go away was really important to me, because I love this community. I've absolutely loved every part of the 20 some odd years that I had representing the town of Plymouth specifically, and the region, Pembroke and Kingston. That's where I grew up, and then going over the Cape, that to me was a lot of fun too, because we had a lot in common with the people on Cape Cod, and they were very good to me, and I enjoyed that. But this job, and the nights and the weekends and the running around and whatnot, and I have a family as well. My wife, the kids are all grown up, and then when I'm out at night, she's home alone. And so those were the part of the reasons that made me say, you know what, I should probably start looking. But I wasn't just going to leave unless it was something perfect. And I just kind of feel like this was really perfect.
Now, you were state rep for 16 years.
16 years.
And then you decided to run for Senate.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, as you know, both you and I worked very closely with my predecessor, Senator Therese Murray, and I certainly was very comfortable in the role of state representative. Frankly, I did it much better than you do. No, I'm kidding. No.
I was waiting for that to come.
And I'm just kidding. I was very comfortable in that role. Yeah. And we had the Senate president, in Plymouth. But when she left, it was a decision that I would have to make. Do I stay as state representative or do I try this? And I felt that, 16 years in the House, I had, been through all the debates. I've worked with, through people. I had gone, from my perspective as a ranking member on Ways and Means, as far as I was going to go in the House. And I thought, listen, if I was going to give it a shot, and if I was successful, then great. But if I wasn't, then at least it would push me to step out. Because as I said, it's hard to walk away from something that you enjoy. That fortunately the people continue to elect you, and but nonetheless, change is good, and I think it's good for. I think it is good for everybody.
Well, I know you and I had spoken a couple of months before you gave your official notice about this could possibly happen, and I know my wife and I talked about it with our kids, and it's a difficult decision to go from a state rep to a senator. Of course, as you know, I didn't decide not to. I think it's all timing. But it really came down for me, like you just said earlier. It's a great community we live in, and I'm fortunate to just represent one community, and not even all the community, 3/4 of it, but to just represent one community, this community at this time in history. I felt it was just the right time for me to stay where I am. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Selfishly, as you and I have been such good friends, I would have loved to have been able to pass the mantle on to you. But it is, as you and you were in a different situation insofar as you still have a lot of young kids at home. Right. Was it 8, 10, 12 kids at home? But you do have a lot of
4.
Yeah, 4.
Soon to be 3 left at home.
Exactly. But and that is and that's an important decision to make, because you have to find that balance of being a very effective legislator and public servant. But you also have to be most importantly, a husband and a father, and that was finding that balance. And so, as much as I would have loved to have seen you do it, I believe you made the right decision, because the job does require a lot more time. You go from
and outside of Plymouth,
exactly, one community to 6 communities. You go from 40,000 to 170,000 people, and I know you, and you want to do the job well, and you want to go there and be responsive to your constituents, as I did. And so I was at all the events in Falmouth and Sandwich and in Bourne, Pembroke, and Kingston. But when you do that, you can't be as many as with Plymouth, which becomes
couldn't do all the ribbon cuttings.
Yeah, exactly, and the camera ops. And that's and so you've got to find that balance, and then still be at home, and that's one of the biggest challenges, man. If it weren't for that, it would have been even more difficult to leave.
Yeah. So obviously, people still refer to you as Vinny from the gas station.
Yes.
But again, you're a family man, you're a business owner, 21-year career at the state level as a state rep and a senator. What are 2 or 3 highlights that you can recall?
One of the, as you know, a lot of issues, come to you. It's not because, oh, geez, I was so smart and I thought about it. But one issue that I got to work on that was really meaningful, and it's something I probably never would have thought of, but we had a young girl who passed away, Nicole Garofalo, because of carbon monoxide poisoning. And that was probably, 10, 12 years ago. And I remember her parents coming to me afterwards, because I knew them. I knew them from the gas station. I had been there, and she succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning, and she asked if I could participate and help in trying to make sure that this never happens to another family. And myself, working along with Senate President Murray at the time, we worked together, and I think at that time she was still Chair of Ways and Means. We worked together and put a piece of legislation to require that every home would have a carbon monoxide detector, ultimately now every business. And long story short is that's been out there for 10 years. It was, initially, you can't mandate and tell people what to do. But to know that saved people's lives, and that Nicole didn't pass away in vain, I think was a pretty powerful thing. And just Vinny from the gas station, and then all of a sudden I'm working on something as significant as that is cool. And I think the other thing, and you and I have had this conversation in the past, but it's being able to help people, things that nobody knows about. Frankly, they'll never know about. It's those little one situations that you're able to help somebody through a difficult time is just incredibly rewarding, and that's what I loved most about the job. Yeah. The issues are come and go, and some of them are easy, and some of them are really tough. But the ability to make a difference in people's lives was the best part of the job for me in 21 years, and that is. Being able to interact on those one-on-ones that you'll never know about, you'll never read about in the paper, was the most rewarding.
I'd say 90% of the job that we do is just helping those individual people in so many different ways, whether it's navigating through mass health or unemployment or whatever it is, but it makes a huge difference in their lives.
Yeah, and that's
the
is just
part.
A lot of fun, and a lot, as I think you and I may know, but most people don't know that those are the ones. It's and the beauty is though sometimes you walk down the street and someone stops you and so thank you, you helped my mom, or you helped my brother, or you helped Ed, and just makes you feel good.
Now, what do you think is the reason you think you were so successful at the state level? I mean, I think you were number 25 of the longest serving officials. What made you last so long, do you think?
I enjoyed the job because I felt like my first and foremost, before my party, before anything else, my job was to represent the people of the district. And so I really focused on that, and I tried to do it. Clearly, I have a set of philosophies that guide me in what I do, but I always tried to build consensus and bring people together and try to solve issues. And I think that's what people want. My constituents, I believe, wanted it. I think in the legislature, the people that we deal with, they want to find that consensus and common ground. They don't want the controversy. They want to find, where can we find that balance? So I tried my best over 21 years to do that. I always treated people with respect, I think, even when I disagreed with them. And sometimes you get into these tough debates, but I think it was really important to always do it with respect and share that it's not that I'm right or you're wrong, but this is how I feel, or this is what my constituents feel, and this is why I'm gonna, I'm gonna articulate a fight for that. And the issues, like as they vary. Who knows what you're going to be dealing with. But if you treat people with respect and make sure that everyone matters. To me, the beauty of going up to the State House, and I was just up there today, is that it's the guards, it's the every employee, it's the court officers. You pay attention to everybody, and I think that really helps because it's not just the people that are that have the titles, the governor and the auditor and the thing, but you treat everyone the same. I know as someone who runs a gas station, it mattered to me that someone would stop and pay attention to me, and I liked to do that because we're all just people, as you shared, it's like nothing is more that I enjoy more is that people see me as not the senator, but that Vinny, just a regular guy from a gas station who just had a time of his life being able to go up there and represent America's hometown.
Right. It's funny you say senator. I had somebody say to me when I was thinking about running. After you gave your notice, somebody said to me, "You could be called senator." I said, my ego's not as big as Vinny's. I don't need to be called a senator.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
You had a very special relationship with Senator Murray, the Senate President, and a lot of people talk about that still. You were a Republican, she was a Democrat. Why do you think that relationship worked so well?
You know what? I just think it's a matter of respect and trust both ways. Yeah. She, I respected her in her role. Listen, you just go around this community and there's very little that she hasn't had an imprint on. The Spire Center, the Arts Center, the courthouse. There's just so much that she's done. And from an individual who's worked and seen that happen and worked with her on these projects, it's hard not to have that respect. And I also believe that, despite the fact that we may have disagreed on on things, I think she respected me in my disagreement because she knows it wasn't just because I was, the opposite party, but I, had strong-held beliefs. And I think she felt that I was effective for my community in a lot of different ways. And so, there was that mutual respect and understanding that we were far more effective for this community working together than working in silos. And you and I did the same thing. We worked together for the community. It didn't matter what the issue was, is that our number one goal was to make sure that we got the job done for, in our case, the town of Plymouth. And so when I was the rep, it was about the town of Plymouth, and we operated. And that nothing happens just in one silo in the Senate or in the House. It has to happen together, and then we have to convince the administration that that's important as well. So when you think about all the grants that have happened that you and I have had the privilege of working on, you have to get it in the House, you have to get it in the Senate, and then you got to convince the governor. And it's that entire process that matters, and that's why all of these relationships matter. People that I knew that were, just starting out as interns, now I've seen they're in positions as chief of staff in one place, legislative director in another place. All of those relationships that started small now are in places of influence. Those are the things that and that was the fun I had over 20-something years, is to see those people be there. My former aide that was an intern is now the deputy secretary of the Secretary of Administration and Finance, the ways and means of the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's just a neat thing to see somebody grow, someone that you worked with and watch them grow. And there's just so many examples of that in my 20-some years.
Now you talk about you and the Senate President working together. We're talking all this year about the 400. You two working together and what you brought to the town of Plymouth. I think something like over $16–17 million in infrastructure.
What we brought, I mean, you were very much.
Well, you and Terry started it, though.
Clearly we started because we were there, but you were at the time were a selectman, and this was an important thing for all of us and the community. So working very closely with Ken Tavares, we've worked together. Ed Santos, Peter Gomes. We all worked together because we knew that this was important. So you knew this was important. And so when I moved to the Senate, you took that role in the House, but you had it before as a selectman. And we've worked together because we knew these were the important things for the community. But as I'm very proud of, and I know you are, $19 million in dredging that never would have happened if it were not for 2020 and us advocating. You go to downtown Plymouth at night.
It's been
on the
transformed over the last 10 years.
It's unbelievable. And those are going to pay long-term dividends. And so I'm very proud of that. I know you are, and I know that the Senate President is, and she's still involved, very much involved, and that's really important to kind of follow this through to the end and the completion. But it's not just so much what's going to happen in April or at the Thanksgiving Day Parade in 2020 or all of the other events that are going to happen. I think what's important is the legacy that will be left historically about what it meant about, happened 400 years ago, and for
it's really an immigration story.
Yeah, and it's an immigration story. It transformed the world. But from an economic development standpoint, it's hard to ignore the impact that's not only happening now, but is going to happen far beyond. You talk about it all the time. It's beyond 2020 and what that means. You can't tell me that those ships being able to come in and out of our port now that they never would have been isn't going to have a huge economic impact. Sure. The beautiful waterfront that people are going to come to and experience for the first time, they're going to come back. That's going to continue to transform. So when you drive down and you travel around the state, there are communities that have the same kind of downtowns that we have, but they're ghost towns because that's not the old downtowns are pretty much all dried up. Not the town of Plymouth. Our downtown is vibrant. It's hot. Anytime you go down there, things are happening. Our waterfront is amazing, and our businesses are thriving. That's economic development is good for everybody.
Even the winter. We're here sitting in the dead of winter now, and you go down there on the weekends. The weather's been good this winter. I'll give you that. But it's still thriving down there.
My wife and I went out to T-Bone on Friday night, and it was just downtown Plymouth. I couldn't find a parking spot. Right. It was just hopping.
Yeah. So you talked earlier about you're still involved with Plymouth 400. From the perspective of Bridgewater State. So talk about the couple things that Bridgewater State's going to be doing.
Well, Mayflower Chronicles, they were very much, I'm sorry,
the Massachusetts
Chronicles, Mayflower, Massachusetts, it's the same. The Massachusetts Chronicles, Gary Myesis, as you know, our town of Plymouth really spearheaded it and put it together. But they worked hand in hand with Bridgewater State to get it together to create curriculum so this is a 400-year history of Massachusetts, starting with the Pilgrims, but actually even before that, 1613, the Native Americans that were here, or the natives that were here before, and telling their story in their words, going all the way up into now, and that's going to go to every school in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
35 books.
35 books per class, 60,000 of them everywhere. We were able to get, you and I, $100,000 in the budget to do the 2 books, but we had Bridgewater had a very wealthy donor, a gentleman by the name of Bruce Bartlett and his wife, and they were able to donate another $200,000. So $300,000 gets those books out, a 15-foot timeline that's going to go in the classroom that they're going to be able to teach young people about Massachusetts history. And a small state, but we have had a huge impact in the nation's history.
And why is it important to tell the story from the beginning, particularly with the Wampanoags?
Because in many ways people feel like that was glossed over and they never got the chance to tell their story. We all knew that it was important that if we were going to commemorate this 400th celebration, it had to tell everybody's story, and they've played a huge role in that. They've told the history from their perspective, and clearly we all know our history from the Pilgrim perspective and the like, but in fairness, it needs to tell everybody's story and move forward. And I think that's the only way we're going to heal from, in many ways, the hurts that I think have happened and some of the atrocities, to be honest with you as well, and try to find that balance and know that the future is ours together. It's not going to just be from one perspective or the other. And that's clearly the start of it. And then all the neat things that have happened in Massachusetts, and that I think is going to inspire young people to think about the great state that they live in and what the interesting things that have happened. And that's what I think is interesting in regards to the Massachusetts Chronicles.
And you talk about the story we talk about immigration. We talk about the working together, you and Senate President, and we're known in this area for all working together, whether we're Democrats or Republicans. A lot of the state isn't like this. Washington could take a real lesson from how we get things done around here. I really believe that. Yeah. But do you think this whole immigration story with the Wampanoags, and do you think it'll have some impact on the nation? with our current immigration the way it is?
I'd like to think that that respect for everyone's culture is really important. As you know, I wasn't born in this country. I'm an immigrant, and this country opened their arms to my family. And I'd like to think that we've been a positive influence here. And frankly, immigrants. You know, it was the Italians, the Chinese, the Portuguese, you name the Brazilians now are coming up. We've all had an impact in making America great, and I think we're great because we're a mix of so many different cultures. When you come to America, you become American. When you go to Portugal, you don't become Portuguese. There's something unique about America, and it's because we've been a melting pot of different cultures, and we're better together. And I hope that that's a message that that we can continue to move forward on, because the angst amongst different cultures is not good. It's not good for everybody. We are better together as people. We have to work out. Immigration is an important issue. We have to do it in a mindful, respectful way. But to divide people, because they're they're one culture or another, is not good for this nation, because what made America great is because we are a mix of so many different cultures.
Yeah, well said, well said. Do you miss the job?
Clearly there's parts of it.
It's only been 3 months,
but there are going to be parts that I know I will miss. And like anything, you do something for 20-something years, and you love that, and so it'll come. But you know what? Everything has a season. Everything has a time, and I got to do a job that was just so much fun, and have an opportunity to speak at so many different events and share your thoughts and learn so much. I learned so much in 20 years. The beauty is like going to college for free. People give us information from on both sides of an issue, and you become much more well versed in the world on so many different levels. And so, how can you not miss that? But it's nice to pass the torch as well, and I feel like, and I will say, I really love being able to hang out with my wife, in the afternoon or on a weekend, and not have to be, so I have to go to this or I have to go to that. And it's not that I don't enjoy going to those things, but it is hard to leave your family as much as we have to, and that's probably the part of it. So.
Recently, the Chamber of Commerce honored you. Let's talk about that.
That was clearly an absolute shock, and I was really touched by that. I mean, I love our chamber. Our chamber has been such an important part of our economic development in this community, and they're part of everything. And they're giving to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They're giving to all of the the local little leagues. They're helping our business community and we're very proud of the fact that we're from this area, and. So I went because that's part of my job is to represent Bridgewater State at there, and for them to call me out and to create what they call an enterprise enterprise grant for new businesses as a business owner.
And they put $1,000 in it, right?
They put $6,000. Yeah, they put $6,000 in, and they're going to give that grant to some new small business as a small business owner, and they're going to name it the Senator deMacedo Enterprise Grant. That was pretty. I was floored, and so to me, that was quite an honor, and I'm very appreciative.
And you matched that with another $6,000.
Well, fortunately, as you know, at the end, your campaign, you pretty much have to close out your campaign. Yeah. I guess I could have kept it open, but it just made sense to me that, I was going to do something with it, and it would go for some philanthropic cause. The fact that I could take what was, very little left, I was able to match the other to make it $12,000 and hope that we can help these small businesses grow, because sometimes it's just that little bit to get them up and going makes a difference.
Well, it's always great to see you. I'm glad you're going to be involved in the communities. We do miss you at the State House, but I'm glad you're still going to be involved, and we'll see you all this year during all the 400 celebrations.
Matt, thank you for the good work that you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled that you're still there fighting for us on Beacon Hill.
Thanks, and thanks for joining me today. Appreciate that. I hope you all enjoyed today's show, and thank you all for the folks here at PAC TV for all you do day in and day out, and thank you at home for watching. We'll see you next time on State Matters.